The sound of pages turning means it's time for another episode from the Meredith Library Podcast Studio, bringing you the library's latest news, information, and fun.
Good afternoon, Anna.
Good afternoon, Matthew.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode number 25 of Check It Out here on the Meredith Library Podcast Studio.
We are new year, same podcast, ready to crank out some great episodes in this 2025.
Yes, we have so many fun plans. We can't even talk about them all yet. We just have to tease the audience.
No, but we have some stuff brewing. That's not even a lie. That's true. We do.
So let's just make them wonder and wait.
Mm-hmm. So, as a kind of, wrap up, we run statistical circulation reports about what materials in the library were the most checked out. And so I thought it'd be fun. We could go over the top 10 fiction books that were checked out at the Meredith Public Library in the year 2024.
Oh, I can't wait to find out. If some of them I can think off the top of my head because we see them so many times at the circulation desk.
Yes, everyone I've talked to about this, everyone guessed the number one spot immediately.
Should I guess? Because I actually haven't looked at the list.
Okay, what do you think it is?
I think it's The Women by Kristen Hanna.
Well, we'll see.
Oh, she's not going to tell me. All right, we have to wait. Okay.
But as I go over these books, I'll briefly touch on the plot, what the genre is. We might notice a pattern with the type of genre that our community seems to gravitate towards.
That'll be interesting. Can we make inferences and draw conclusions?
Yeah, so all listeners right now, I want you to guess in your head what you think that the most common genre is. And Matthew, you can make a guess too.
Okay, well, I think I know because we talked about genres previously when we were planning this last year, literally. And we talked about kind of mysteries and slashers. And then we talked about, I'm going to use your words, I'm putting in quotes, hot, weird girls.
We'll talk about the hot, weird girl books in another episode for sure.
Okay.
But I will say that I don't think a single hot, weird girl book made it into the top 10.
Just your personal top 10.
Yeah, my personal top 10, they're all hot, weird girl books. But
okay. I'm not going to comment on that. Someone will get in trouble.
So coming in at number 10 is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. The Nightingale is a historical fiction novel about two sisters in France during World War II. I think it's just dramatic and there's a love plot and some twists and betrayals. But historical World War II mystery fiction is huge. So I'm not surprised The Nightingale made it in.
Is there a nurse in this one as well? Because I'm wondering if there's like the Nightingale also has a double meaning, like Florence Nightingale, if there's some literary thing going on there.
No, there's no nurses.
Okay.
But it's like these two sisters kind of get separated, and then it's about their two different experiences. And I think it like ping pongs between the two.
Okay.
Sisters seems to be a common thing with Kristen Hanna books as well. This was published in 2015, so it's still been 10 years and it's still pretty popular.
I think because her other one took off so much this year, it's affecting those backlist ones as well.
Yeah, whenever a book gets really big, then people want to read other things written by that author. So yeah, and Kristen Hanna, our librarian Joyce was talking about how she has kind of evolved as an author and that her earlier books, she sort of entered into the publishing sphere doing kind of more romance novels or chick lit, as they're called, and then slowly has sort of refined her craft. And we had the whole episode about beach reads, so understand that I don't mean this derogatorily, but the female romance books aren't taken as seriously, and so she started embedding like historical settings into them, and now she's considered more of an author.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so this one is one of the historical fiction. It won the Goodreads Reader's Favorite Historical Fiction in 2015.
Oh, very cool.
People loved it. It's got 4.64 stars on Goodreads. Coming in at number 9 is True Colors by Kristen Hanna.
Wow, this is her year, isn't it?
She is having her moment, for sure. When you shelve, you notice the Kristen Hanna books are almost never fully there. There's at least like 50% are gone constantly.
Okay.
This is one of her earlier books. This was published in 2009 and is not as historical. It's sort of more romance-based, but follows 3 sisters.
Pattern.
Mm-hmm. And they live in a fictional town called Oyster Shores in Washington. And their mother dies. They have a dramatic relationship with their father. And then someone new comes to town and just sort of sends everything off kilter.
Yes, as those new people do.
Mm-hmm. Dun, dun, dun. And it is considered a contemporary romance. So I'm suspicious that the new person might create some, love triangles or love squares.
I would assume, yes.
Yeah.
Quadrangle, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's about sisters, rivalry, forgiveness, redemption, and what it means to be a family.
That's like a perfect voiceover for the the movie version or something.
Yes, and The Nightingale was the movie rights for that were picked up, but it's gotten lost in the movie
Development hell, as they call it in the industry.
Yes, so it seems like 2 directors have been hired, both have dropped out. I don't know if we're going to see that anytime soon. And True Colors, I saw nothing on the internet about that one.
Okay.
That seems to be a Meredith favorite, very specific to us type situation. So number 8 is The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. And it tells the story of this 4-year-old Mi'kmaq girl, which is an indigenous tribe in Canada. And her family, they take a trip to Maine. And while they're out picking blueberries, the 4-year-old girl goes missing. Then it kind of time jumps. And that young girl was supposedly, probably stolen by a white family and raised in like this affluent place as an only child. And I think that the novel's sort of about her figuring out what's wrong because she knows something's off, and I think she'll uncover her own kidnapping.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is a historical mystery, which that's the first one of that kind, right? We've got the mystery. The last 2 was a historical fiction and a romance.
Okay.
So this was published this year in January, and the American Library Association gave the book the Andrew Carnegie Medal for Excellence in Fiction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's well liked and of the time. So, this is one of the hot novels of the year.
Yes.
And number 7, we have First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. And this is about a woman who works for this secret man. His name's Mr. Smith. She doesn't even know his identity. And he gives her assignments. He's like, this is your name, this is the town you're going to, and this is the target. And so she has these jobs where she has to, get info about these people. Or I don't know if she has to kill them or not. Unclear. But at this new town, dun dun dun, her hit, Ryan, is cute.
So she suddenly stops all her paid assignments and reevaluates her life choices.
And I'm sure that who the identity of Mr. Smith and what she's doing for him starts to kind of unravel as well. But yeah, this is a thriller, a mystery, has a slight romantic subtext, was a Goodreads Choice Award nominee for Reader's Favorite Mystery and Thriller of 2024. And the audiobook was really well enjoyed as well.
Yeah, it sounds like that definitely would be a movie in the making too, doesn't it?
Yes. So the showrunner of Grey's Anatomy and actress-producer Octavia Spencer have secured the ABC signature film rights to adapt First Lie Wins for Hulu.
Okay.
So that one seems like it might actually come out. Maybe.
Okay.
No promises.
All right. Moving on.
Number 6 is the sequel to the Colleen Hoover book, It Ends With Us, which is called It Starts With Us. And I can't talk about this.
So clever.
Yeah.
He said sarcastically, in case it wasn't clear.
I can't talk too much about this plot because it gives away a lot of the first novel. But I think if you are paying attention to popular culture, you should know at least that the book is about domestic abuse and sort of also a love triangle, which is interesting. The main character, her name is Lily Bloom, and she's a florist. Not only is she
How clever, he said sarcastically.
Not only is she a florist, though, but she is a punk florist. So all of her flowers are dead, and they've got spikes, and they're goth. So she's not like other florists. She's a cool florist.
Yes, clearly.
And then she meets this guy named Ryle. He's a surgeon. He's a bad boy. And then her true love from her past appears, and his name's Atlas. And he was homeless.
Where do they get these names?
That's what's classic about these romance. I kind of live for actually how weird the names are in romance novels sometimes, especially the names of men. They're always something writer, Pitchfork, or something like that. I don't even know. It's so funny. But we talked about this. There is, for It Ends With Us, that movie is currently available on Netflix. It stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. There was so much drama on the set. There are multiple lawsuits actively being filed and parlayed against each other. There's literally no way that we're getting a sequel.
Then sometimes the people come back together, the lawsuits are settled, and everyone gets over it when, many more millions and, upwards of hundreds of millions are waved in front of them. So I wouldn't completely discount it.
We'll see what wins out at the end. Is it spite or money?
Well, they say time and cash heal all wounds.
Yeah. But for those that are a fan of Colleen Hoover, that book is available. I'm sure that some more of her novels will be getting produced into movies relatively soon because she's been kind of a hit as of late. Really digestible, like romance novels that also are a little kind of edgy. And people have really strong opinions about that. Some people think that her edginess is not appropriate or kind of glamorizes things that are abusive. And then some people are kind of more like, hey, just let writers write. And then some people think she's not very good at writing. But, to each their own.
Right. Everybody has an opinion. And I have an opinion on the title. Can we take a small sidebar on sequel titles?
Yes.
So it was, give me the original title.
So It Ends With Us, which is an allusion to the cycle of domestic abuse.
I see.
So then It Starts With Us means like we are starting the beginning of the cycle of healthy relationships.
Okay, that makes sense. But I mean, if you didn't know what those meant, you would think the title should be the other way around.
Right.
Obviously.
It is confusing.
Right. Okay. Well, then I always say, and this was a novel. Of course, Lois Duncan. I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it was from the 1970s. And then the movie came out in the late 90s. So it took like 20 years, to get a movie. And do you remember what the title of the sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer is?
No, what is it?
I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I always call that the worst sequel title in movie history. And then that wasn't bad enough. They had to continue. Do you know what the name of the third movie is?
I really still know what you did last summer. What is it?
It might as well be. It's I'll Always Know What You Did That Summer.
Ooh. What's also hilarious is all the Fast and Furious franchise names because they don't follow any pattern whatsoever.
It just could be any ridiculous thing.
As long as there's a Furious or a Fast in it somewhere.
Good enough. Yeah.
You're
anyway.
good. So,
all right. Moving on. What were we up to? Number 6 now?
We are up to number 5.
Oh, 5. Okay.
Now, I have seen this book so much and I thought I knew what the plot was. And then I read what the plot was and I was like, wait, what? So, Remarkably Bright Creatures. Do you have an image of a cover in your head when I say that?
Yes, because it was one of Erin's book club picks. I think it was from the Sci-Fi and Fantasy Book Club.
Right. So it's pitched when people generally talk about it as this friendship between an octopus and a woman.
Yeah, there's an octopus on the front of the cover.
Right.
That's what I remember. Yeah.
Marcellus is his name. I thought it was like one of those things where she was like a marine biologist or something and they just sort of develop some, language or relationship together and then she heals because she's a widow, blah, blah, blah. No.
Okay, that made sense though. Your version made sense.
That's what I thought it was. No. This lady works the night shift at an aquarium. Marcellus is like a fully sentient, like with human level intelligence capabilities that has like conscious like thoughts at the human level. And her name's Tova. He befriends her. And she's all out of shape because her son went missing like 6 months ago or something like that. And so Marcellus is like, I'm going to solve this mystery.
So yeah, it's definitely science fiction.
Yeah. And then the octopus
More on the fiction. Yeah.
solves the crime of the missing child. And I was like, you took everything that like people like and mashed it all together into one thing and people eat it up. This is a very beloved book. It technically is a mystery with elements of magical realism.
You say technically or tentacly?
Tentacly. Ha ha ha.
That was bad. We should cut that, but we won't.
No, we won't. It was published in 2022, but somehow this year specifically really
took off.
Do you know what Book of the Month is?
Yes.
I have a feeling Book of the Month is heavily influencing people's reading habits. My mom subscribed to it and then you just have those books coming to your door.
Right.
So you never have to think about it past like the 4 options they give you. You pick one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sure that has been majorly influential. I actually recognize a lot of these titles as Book of the Month books.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which I, again, cued in because my mom does it. This won the McLaughlin Esmond Stearns First Novel Prize by the Writers Center, got a bunch of Goodreads awards, tons of awards. And Netflix has acquired the project. It's in early stages of development. The director of Where the Crawdads Sing, Olivia Newman, is directing it. So I do think we'll be seeing a Remarkably Bright Creatures Netflix movie.
All right.
Number 4 is Toxic Prey by John Sanford, which is number 34 in the Lucas Davenport series. So this is one of those classic detective series, and this is just the most recent one. But in this one, Lucas Davenport teams up with his daughter, and they track down a dangerous scientist whose latest project could endanger the whole world. All this stuff takes place in Minnesota, and his investigations, they're very fantastical and over the top. Every book is, one mystery, but they're usually like intricate criminal networks, serial killers, large-scale conspiracies. So very dramatic.
The fate of the world must always be hanging in the balance.
Oh, yeah. And they made one Lucas Davenport TV movie in 2011 called Certain Prey that starred Mark Harmon. And it had not great reviews.
Yeah,
so
that was the end of that for now.
Yeah, they tried Lucas out, and then they said, maybe not.
Okay.
Number 3, and I think this is the most beloved series, in our library at least, is the Maisie Dobbs series by Jacqueline Winspear. And Maisie is a psychologist and investigator in London in post-World War I. And every book is a different murder. And I think as the books go on, she uncovers more about her life. You learn more about her and other characters. But the 18th, which is the finale, came out this year. So probably a really big deal for our Maisie Dobbs Ride or Dies, which I think we have a lot of. But the first book in this series won the Agatha Award for Best First Novel in 2003. So this has been a series that the author has been writing for 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it just closed out. So, I think for anyone that wants, again, a historical mystery book with a female lead, this is beloved. Actually, our director, Aaron, absolutely loves this series as well.
So we're definitely seeing a pattern now with a lot more mystery showing up on this list I'm seeing.
Yes. Yeah. I think that almost every single one is a mystery of some type, except for the Colleen Hoover one and maybe one of the Kristen Hanna ones. Number 2 is...
We're getting there. We're counting down.
The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon, which is a gripping historical mystery inspired by the life and diary of Martha Ballard, a renowned 18th century midwife who defied the legal system and wrote herself into American history. There was a murder of a man that was found under a river. And everyone's oh my God, what happened? But she knew that he had done some bad things because I think she treated the women who he had assaulted. And so she uses her diary to solve the crime and expose a lot of power dynamics in 18th century town. This was the favorite historical fiction winner for 2024. The Good Morning America Book Club pick. It has 4.42 stars on Goodreads. I think this one is, again, we have a huge bevy of lovers of historical fiction mystery.
Yes, apparently.
At this library. It seems to be the big genre. So number 1, to literally no one's surprise, is The Women by Kristen Hanna, which tells the story of this woman named Frankie, who's a nurse who serves in the United States Army Nurse Corps during the Vietnam War. It's a historical fiction book about a war with a female perspective and was published this year. It was on the number 1 New York Times bestsellers list for 8 consecutive weeks. Won the Goodreads favorite historical fiction for 2024. People love Kristen Hanna's writing style specifically. It's very flowy and descriptive. And Warner Brothers has purchased the film rights.
I'm sure there are lots of discussions in the background of that. And I bet they were very expensive film rights besides.
Oh, yeah. And I think I checked because I wanted to do this for all the books, but I thought it'd be too long. But I wanted to see sort of, what a critique of the book was. So I figured I would just do it for the number 1. And this book positions itself as sort of the women's side of Vietnam.
Yes.
But there's not a single Vietnamese woman character in the book that has a speaking role.
So it's the American woman's version. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think that, we need to be careful when we make sweeping generalizations like that, when it's there's actually a ton of women that were impacted by Vietnam that don't get any attention in this story. So it should be renamed The American Women. I thought it was a good critique though. Still, you can enjoy the book, but I think when we think about, it's clear that our readers want that female perspective. And I think we need to look and make sure that that female perspective we're getting is not only white women, especially with these historical time periods where many different people from different cultures are affected, especially a war.
Definitely.
So, yeah. But anyway, The Women is beloved, adored, and we'll see what the big book of 2025 is. Who even knows?
Yes. Well, and for The Women, before we leave that topic, we had several copies of it. I know we have an audiobook. We have it in large print. We have multiple regular copies. And even with all that availability, we still had people on waiting lists for months because it was so popular. Everyone just kept hearing about it and talking about it. And, it's kind of like that snowball effect. once, everyone's reading it, everybody else wants to read it. It turns into that whole phenomenon.
Right. It becomes the thing that people are going to be talking about at that dinner party. So if you want to be able to have, a stake in the conversation, you better read the book.
Right.
Type thing. I remember someone would walk in and they'd be like, I'm wondering if you have this book. And I'd be like,
right. Before they finish the sentence,
So yeah, every year there's one. I know Where the Crawdad Sings was a big one a few years ago. We still have a few copies of that. Lessons in Chemistry was really big.
And last year for 2023.
Yeah. So and it's always, it's a lot of times it is a historical book written by a white woman.
What's funny about it too. And then after the whole hoopla dies down until a movie comes out, then nobody will care again.
Right. We'll weed the extra copies.
Right.
And the movie will come back out and then it will happen all over again.
Right. It's so funny. It's like this pattern that you see. Yep. All right. So I know that we have so much more research that you did, and you did a wonderful job finding all this fun information from our systems and then going out there and finding the reviews and the ratings and all that stuff. So I'm thinking we would like to split this episode into multiple episodes so we can talk about some more of the hot and, wanted and desired literary properties here in the next episode.
That sounds like so much fun. I mean, I had a good time.
All right. I always have a good time talking to you, Anna.
Oh, thank you. You're cool sometimes.
Oh, I'll take it.
Oh.
All right. I'll take it. All right. So we will say goodbye to everyone for episode 25 and thank them for joining us today. And we'll tell them come back for episode 26 for even more of our top popular circulated items.
Yes. We'll see you then.
All right. Sounds good. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Sounds like we're at the end of another chapter. Podcast music titled Daytime TV Theme by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0. Podcast copyright 2024. Meredith Library Podcast Studio.